One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice.
Welcome to the One Mic, One Voice, building the collective conscious, the show that's created to give space where your voice, ideas, and informed opinions can be heard, appreciated, and debated. I am Michael Eric Owens. I'm solo today, but not really solo. I got my good friend, founder, and executive director of the Teachers Appreciation Foundation, Karim Muhammad. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a sad day. DT lost his grandmother, and so we know the funeral was yesterday. And we just, as a family, as a podcast family, as a listening base around the world, we just want to say our thoughts and our prayers are with him and his family during this time of bereavement. And if you like me, send him a little shout out.
Yeah, most definitely. I had the honor of talking to his significant other. She's like family to me, and we spoke, briefly about the transition. That's what I like to call it. Excuse me, because it's just the second phase or whatever phases that we're going through. This is just a temporary phase. Death is not taboo. And I want to give a major shout out to DT and his family. My condolences. And this is not over. It's just a phase, just a process. I've conditioned my mind since I lost my father back in 2008. I witnessed him take his last breath. Mm-hmm. And one thing that he did teach me, he said, son, I'm going into a transition. So just don't, you're going to mourn for me. I know because of the absence of the body not being there. But death is not taboo. My condolences to his family. And we're here for you, brother. We're here.
Absolutely. And we're going to hold it down, too. Today's show is titled Lockdown Generation. Lockdown Generation. And we realize all of the violence that's happening in our schools, elementary, high school, as well as higher academia. But I want to deviate just for a moment to talk a little bit about this rabbi in Israel who called blacks monkeys. And if you hadn't seen this, it's been across the news. We posted it on the One Mic, One Voice page. But I want to listen to this video here that addresses this idea, because this statement that he's made is revealing, and it's really the continuation of the demonization of black people. And the idea, this is archaic in itself, the idea that black people are monkeys, the intellect of monkeys, the resemblance of monkeys, the primitive nature. This is closely associated with an argument for why blacks were enslaved. They were not truly people. They were not human. They were actually property, 3/5 of a person, according to the Constitution. And so he continues in that skewed sort of vein of humiliating black people. And so I thought about, what is this obsession with American Christianity with Israel? And I'll preference this segment that we're about to listen to here with this idea that Jews do not believe in Christ. They don't see Jesus as the Messiah. But yet we have a orthodoxy in this country that somehow doesn't understand that notion, that idea, that disconnectedness from Christianity and Judaism. Well, let's take a listen here and let's come back and talk about this.
Himself, of course, regarded himself as Jews, and many of the apostles, in fact, were Jews, and they considered themselves Jewish. In fact, Peter himself differed with Paul, and Peter took the position that a follower of Jesus should practice circumcision and keep kosher and keep the Shabbat because they were Jewish. So the question, and of course we have Hebrew Christians this very day, the question is, why can't I be a religious Jew, believe in the Torah, and still say that Jesus is the Messiah?
Exactly, that's what they want to know.
I would say that Judaism has three fundamental issues with Christian theology. Issue number one, which does not go to the messianic aspect of Jesus, but to the divinity and the Trinity and the Holy Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Our problem would be that we believe that God has never and will never assume a human form, and once you deal with the reification or the corporalization of the deity, you are violating a tenet of God to being infinite and non-material. Now that of course goes to the divinity, and that was a later development in Christianity. In terms of the messianic vision, because let's say I say, well, I don't believe that Jesus is God or Son of God, but let him be the Messiah, which we do believe in. So I would say there are 2 points. Point number one is that classical Jewish literature does not accept the notion of a second coming, and that is, once the Messiah reveals himself, he will accomplish a designated mission of getting the Jews back to Israel, rebuilding the temple, and hopefully establishing world's peace. Now, Jesus, of course, was crucified. Jesus was murdered before he completed any of those things. And because of that, Christianity developed the idea of a second coming, that Jesus will come back and complete the mission. As I say, as far as normative Jewish theology is concerned, when the Messiah comes, he's going to get the job done, and he's not going to die and then come back. That is point number one. Point number two, which is actually a more important point, is, and again, I'm not going to get into the debate whether Jesus said it or the apostles or later people said it, but the notion that of the New Testament, the notion that God has abrogated his covenant with Israel, and that God has replaced the Sinaitic revelation with justification by faith, which is really Paul's innovation. Paul created the idea that one gets redemption not by works but by faith. That's called justification by faith. That is a theological postulate that is absolutely inconsistent with the eternity of the Torah and the divinity of the Torah. Now again, I understand one could make the argument that that's not Jesus' argument. In fact, there are passages where he says, I'm not going to abrogate a single letter of the Torah. And yet, even within the Christian Bible, there are narratives in which he implies that certain mitzvot are no longer binding, and certainly Paul took the position that none of the mitzvot are binding. And that is a postulate we cannot accept, because as Maimonides writes in his Articles of Faith, even the Messiah will not abrogate or replace the Torah. And that's our problem with Christian theology.
Now, I don't necessarily want to get into a theological discussion this morning. However, this obsession with Israel, this idea that somehow Israel represents the same sort of belief system that American Christianity does, is a farce. Now, I'm not saying that either belief system is wrong. That's not my purpose here this morning. But what I'm going to say to you is that mainstream Jewish theology rejects Jesus as the Messiah. Jesus did start a new religion, which man has classified as Christianity. There's nothing wrong with that. However, when we take this sort of skewed way of looking at theology and we base that in policy, when we say that, for instance, America stands with Israel because of this warped view of connectedness between Christianity and Judaism, it's a lie. It is a break from Judaism, complete break from it. It is a new philosophy, a new way of thinking, a new way of believing. And when we have this corrupt president of ours move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, and we have the evangelical right applauding this of some sort of prophecy, this is why we're in the situation that we are in. You talk about peace in the Middle East, this just adds to chaos. How many people died? At least 60 people died. Over 200 people were hurt or injured protesting. This is blood on America's hands. Well, you say, well, hold up for a moment now. I had no say-so in that. Well, the man on the top did. He made the decision. If there's blood on his hands, there's blood on America's hands. How long will we continue this farce as if we need to support a country? Now, if this was just based upon policy, then you know what? They're an ally in the region. I might not have such a strong objection to that. But it's based upon a warped sense of belief that there is some sort of shared faith. There isn't. And until the so-called preachers and teachers of this Christendom start speaking the truth, you will not be able to distinguish between that. And here is a leader of that faith. And again, I have Jewish friends, don't get me wrong. And I have powerful Jewish friends, and they're kind and considerate, and we've had Rabbi Harris on this show, so you know they're my brothers and my sisters. But I'm not going to use their faith as some sort of warped idea of how we should address one another and how we should even look at each other's country. I'm not suggesting either that Jewish people view blacks as monkeys, but what I'm saying is this particular rabbi does, and that's a problem. And he was condemned by Jews and people alike. But I think there's a danger in this country where we put so much stock into this archaic way of looking at Christianity in relations to Judaism. Folks, that just doesn't exist, only in the minds of those who want to lead you in the wrong direction. Folks, we're going to take a break. We're going to get back into this thing called Lockdown Generations. We will be right back.
Oklahoma Humanities Brainbox podcast uses the humanities to take listeners on a deep dive into the issues affecting American society and culture. Join some of Oklahoma's most interesting and knowledgeable humanities scholars to explore how history, literature, ethics, philosophy, and other humanities fields inform our understanding of current events and the human experience. And to find the Brainbox podcast, simply search Brainbox Podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, and any other podcasting library. If you have any ideas or comments rattling around in your noggin, email us at brainbox@okhumanities.org.
This is Dr. Laura Gillette, And when I listen to podcasts, I always listen to the One Mic, One Voice show.
All right, folks, we back in the studio, man, and listen, we got some stuff to talk about today. My good friend Karim Muhammad is in the studio with me, and we about to get down because there's some serious things happening in our country.
Yes, sir.
And I want to talk a little bit about, because you are the founder, executive director of the Teacher Appreciation Foundation, which I have been a fan of since the outset. And One Mic, One Voice has truly supported your organization and the movement that you have. The lockdown generation. When I was growing up, I didn't have to worry about somebody coming in shooting up the school. I had to worry about mama coming in because I messed up.
Already.
I had to worry about mama coming in with the beat down.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't have to worry about the dangers of gun violence in our schools. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when.
Right.
Now, let me say that again. We are living in a time where our young children are being slaughtered in the halls of education. And it's not a question of if it will happen, but when it will happen. I don't think we understand the magnitude of the trauma that our young children are exposed to each and every day as they go in and try to be educated.
And saying that, Brother Mike, I've talked to a lot of people in the education field, and it is sad. It's a sad reality. These kids are exposing the powers that be. What I mean by that is this. When these kids is reaching out to these egocentric leaders that just concerned about their bottom dollar, I'm being bullied. We need help. We need resources. And a fad becomes to develop where it says, okay, this kid over here shot up hundreds of kids. He's going to be a well-known hero. He died with the whole world knowing what he was all about. They pick up on that. And these kids that unfortunately lose their lives become collateral damage. It's very unfortunate. And as you said, to piggyback off of what you said, it is not when, but it's not if, but when it's going to happen. Because unfortunately, it's going to happen again. And these egocentric leaders, they're being forced to come up to say, hey, we will be heard. And unfortunately, these kids, it's by the blood of these kids.
I want to listen to just a quick analysis of what has transpired here this year alone. And let's go to that and we'll talk about it.
Here in the shooting at Santa Fe High today is sophomore Rome Schubert. He was treated for a gunshot wound to the head.
He had fired 10 or 12 shots in that room before he left. Just thinking that I'm one of the lucky ones, and I'm glad that God spared me, but just feel bad that they didn't make it, and that they had no reason to be shot or anything. They didn't deserve that.
Rome Schubert, part of a generation that can no longer take school safety for granted. Here's Jim Axelrod.
For Generation Lockdown, the question is no longer if it could happen, as much as when it will.
Was there a part of you that was like, this isn't real, this would not happen in my school?
No, there wasn't.
Why so?
It's been happening everywhere. I've always kind of felt like eventually it was going to happen here too. So, I don't know. I wasn't surprised, I was just scared.
It's worth another listen. No part of her thought it couldn't happen at her school.
Was there a part of you that was like, this isn't real, this would not happen in my school?
No, there wasn't.
She is the newest member of the heartbreaking chorus of young voices around the country. From Lexington Park, Maryland.
I didn't really believe that something like this would happen at a school near me. And it's really scary.
To Benton, Kentucky.
There was a lot of blood everywhere. It was horrible.
A generation that knows no matter how forcefully they chant never again, their experience suggests it most probably will. This year, more people have been killed in school shootings than members of the military have been killed while serving.
I shouldn't be going through this at my school.
Santa Fe High School was on lockdown less than 3 months ago. Today, it was for real, which is why this girl no longer thought it couldn't happen at her school.
I wasn't surprised, I was just scared.
And sadly, she is the voice of this generation. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, New York.
Wow.
Sadly so. CBS.
It's heart-wrenching to hear those young people speak about that horrid experience. More have been killed in school shootings this year than those serving in the military.
Wow.
Okay, you're safer serving in the military than you are attending school in America. Are you kidding me? If that's not a sobering thought, I don't know what is. This young lady said, okay, that she did not have one doubt that it would happen at her school. Now, how many others, Brother Kareem, think about that?
And, you know, looking at how distraught the young lady was to say, you know, one day, and it's almost in a literal sense, I'm actually going to the battlefield to get my education. I'm walking into the danger zone, code red, to get my education, because any day and any time I could lose my life. One guy, he did step up to the plate. I really do admire him for doing that. The head coach of Oklahoma State University. He was going to finance all the metal detectors, the security, to enforce safety in the Stillwater schools. And I believe a lot of these leaders is you're being forced, you're being exposed. Now you have to step up, okay? Because it's going to go to the private schools. And ain't just plagued in public schools. These private schools where these, people can afford, $2,000-$3,000 a month tuitions, is going to bleed over to there as well.
I mean, the idea that we need to build our schools and outfit our schools as prisons is ridiculous to me.
Right.
I understand metal detectors. But the very fact that we have gotten to this point speaks to the poor leadership that we've had thus far. It's out of control when there's more kids being killed in American schools than those serving in the military. Brother Kareem, we're only 20 weeks into 2018.
Right.
And there have been already 22 shootings where someone was either hurt or killed. There is an average of one shooting per week. And the latest just happened May 18th. We heard it on the clip that we ran. Santa Fe, Texas, 10 people killed. But the one I want to focus on is this, and we have some comments, and I'll get to them. The one I want to focus on is this February 14th, Parkland, Florida shooting.
Right.
The reason I want to focus on that is because it's mainly an affluent school. Let me just say this. Most of the school shootings are in white schools.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And mainly they've done by the majority, the overwhelming majority of school shooters are white males. And the overwhelming majority of mass shooters are white males.
Are white males, absolutely.
You've heard me say this on One Mic, One Voice before. We have a white male problem when it comes to violence.
Right.
And to deny that, you have to have your head in the sand. Okay? The data doesn't lie, right? We'll talk about some of those reasons that experts have come up with for them. But this 19-year-old man in Florida gunned down students and staff at this Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, slaughtering 17. 17. He had been expelled, Brother Kareem,
right,
for disciplinary problems. So he came back and he killed 17 people. I mean, let's think about the magnitude of that for a moment. 17 bodies laying in one building. And let's think about the sorrow, the ripple effect of the parents, the friends, the community, the relatives.
And then, you know, looking into the intricates leading up to him doing that massacre, it was a slaughter, as you say. When people tend to take things lightly, you know, they expelled him. Oh, you're a bad kid, get out, you're not going to be anything. And I'm not being facetious at all. I'm just saying the chronological orders of this kid, 19-year-old young man in the eyes of the law, but this 19-year-old kid, you know, was crying out for help. So the only thing you do, because I've talked to young men. I was fortunate enough to do a teen summit yesterday. Good brother of mine, Dante Patterson, I did a teen summit. A lot of these boys, they need that reassurance that they're okay. Okay? That wasn't a random act of violence. He completely lost all touch of reality because of what he was going through. You're just 19 years old. What have you lived? You ain't lived anything. You ain't lived anything at 19 years old. So it goes back to as I say, these egocentric leaders. You know, it's time, and it's collateral damage. These kids is being killed like this.
Let me tell you just how much these leaders, these policymakers, do not care.
Right.
This group, the reason why I wanted to focus in on this Parkland shooting, these were affluent kids who started a Never Again movement. Okay? Student-led gun control organization that advocates for tighter regulations to prevent gun violence. Right? It was started in February. Okay, the day after the shooting. They didn't hesitate.
Right.
They organized. They didn't lay in the pity of the situation. They rose up and they organized. Young people. Out of that, okay, came this idea of March for Our Lives in D.C. And we saw it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Over 800 events throughout the United States and around the world on this day, March 24th, 2018, march in support of tighter gun control laws. Okay. Here are young people. We can go back to Sandy Hook. Here are young people that have risen up to say we are marching for our very lives.
Yeah.
Created a movement titled Never Again. Petition Congress. Talk to legislators, locally, nationally. put it all on the line. Young people, mostly white young people. Then comes Santa Fe. This is why they don't care. When you sit in the seat of power and authority, and young people are being slaughtered more in our schools than in the military this year, and you are inept and you do nothing, you listen to their cry, you see their afflictions, you see their pain, and you do nothing, you don't care.
You don't care.
You don't care. The NRA, you care more about money. You care more about your own personal career. Shame on you. Right. This is the modern day America's shame. When we let our children, man, what parent wouldn't do anything to protect their kids?
To protect their kids, you know, and it's going to take, you know, one of theirs. I say again, it's going to take one of theirs to take a bullet. That's how severe this is. This is bloodshed, literally.
Brother, I'm going to tell you like this, I would like to believe you, but you remember the time that those congressmen got shot on that time?
I do.
Okay. Did they do anything then? Even their own colleagues being shot at.
They did not.
Now, you know what? I don't know what they that's a hold on somebody, man.
Yeah, I remember one of them. He was like, he got shot up real bad. It was at a park, like a fundraiser.
Oh yeah, it was a baseball.
Yeah, like a baseball fundraiser. He made it through, and only thing they did was cheer for him and clap for him. Maybe named a bill out of him. Come on now. They named the bill after him. Oh yeah, good job. Yeah, come on in. You made it. And all you know, for all we know, I'm not accusing nobody of anything. For all we know, they could have set that up. I don't like him. He slept with my wife or whatever the case may be. He got to get took out. We'd get, Johnny Rose over here to campaign and take his position. That's how wicked it be.
Yeah. And then you have the 45 up there saying, let's arm teachers. One of the incidents was a teacher that had a gun that it accidentally went off and injured a student. Folks, listen, that's foolish. That's foolish to say that we just gonna have war in school now. I mean, might as well. Why don't we just have a boot camp for kids now and prepare them for combat, starting in kindergarten. Because that's what it's turning into. These reasons, they say, for the actions of these individuals. School bullying.
Yeah.
It's not being addressed.
At all.
Man, and school bullying is serious, man. Cyberbullying, copycat, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Right. I want to be famous.
Yeah.
I want to be infamous. The biggie, mental health problems. Why the federal and state governments are cutting funding to mental health services. We continue to see the growth of that. Culture of violence. Is America a culture of violence? Okay. Man, I think we I think look in the dictionary, if you put violence, American flag should be right next to it.
Right next to it.
From the beginning, okay, we took the country through violence. We enslaved people through violence. We subjugated people through violence. We find that right now in the city streets, we are eliminating black men through violence, police brutality, and gun control, man, the lack thereof.
The lack thereof.
A lot of these kids simply take the guns from the house.
Yeah.
Daddy's guns. And they go into the schools and they take out their anger and their frustration and their loss of value for their own lives and the lives of others on innocent people. The question, Brother Karim, we need to ask ourselves, do we want to receive that call? That's the question.
That's the question.
When you come to make decisions about gun control in this country, about mental health in this country, ask yourself this question. Do you want to receive that phone call that your son, your daughter has been killed? That your nephew, your brother, or even your mother, could be a teacher, your father. Do you want to receive that call? Because guess what, folks? You might get it.
You just might get it. And what got me perplexed, Brother Mike, is these people live in this fallacious world amongst themselves where they put such a value on the dollar bill. Well, as long as it doesn't affect their immediate home front, they going to continue to tuck tail and run.
And that's really what it's all about, right? It doesn't affect me. It hasn't hit me. It's not personal for me. But I can tell you, man, I'm devastated by what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I don't even want to begin to imagine what that phone call sounds like, feels like, what my world would look like.
Wow.
That's the question we need to ask ourselves, because as we have said in this show and what has been said on what we have shared, is the reality is it's not if.
It's not if.
Some of you hear my voice. It's not if, but when. But when. This is a serious issue, and I'm going to encourage folks. You know what? I don't know what it's going to take for them to listen. I mean, these kids poured their hearts out, and they were not heard. Kids are being slaughtered. They're still not listening. I don't know what it's going to take, but one thing I do know, we keep fighting.
Yes.
You don't get discouraged. You don't give in. You don't let apathy be your friend. You get up. You continue to fight until our schools become a safe zone. We had a couple of comments that I missed earlier. One's for you, Brother Karim, and the first one is associated to the move of Jerusalem, I believe. Elijah says, I believe he made his decision on money as the main goal. Well, why I think that's probably part of it, and I would agree. Who knows what that man makes his decisions on?
Right.
I mean, I just, and it's scary for me to even imagine to get into the mind of Trump. I don't think man. That might be the maze of lunacy. And this is a question for you, brother. If teachers are paying for their own supplies because their district can't afford to, who will pay for making the schools safer?
Well, the deal about that is the district can afford to. It's the misappropriation of funds. Is when, they go out and you allot, a certain amount of funds and it's misappropriated. And then, you get these teachers, and I've talked to thousands of teachers. My mom was a school teacher for 40 years. Okay, they get these. Why would you pay a superintendent? A lot of them is not even, has absolutely oblivious to the classroom 6 figures. Like literally, they get paid 6 figures. These superintendents. Mm-hmm. So the school districts have the resources. They just misappropriate the funds. Now, who will pay to make the schools safer? The people that initiate the laws, the egocentric politicians. Mm. A lot of them is getting exposed for embezzlements, and and the list goes on and on and on. So the money is there. Now they're being exposed. We're taking a stand.
The other comment is, what will it take for those in power to listen? How about a new president? Well, I'm totally in agreement with you. But I think the president is limited in what he or she can do. I'm emphasize she, because I'm looking for the first female president.
Right.
And what they can do regarding the lobbyists, mainly the NRA, and their hold on congressional folk. I again do not understand how money can trump our babies.
Wow.
Don't
get it. I do not get that.
It's just like here when we had the, we're going to go to break here in a minute, but it's just like here when we had the tornado that came through, the big one, most recently, I think 5 years ago, right?
Right. Moore, Oklahoma.
Yeah. 5 years ago today.
Yes.
May 20th.
And I was my wife at the time, me and my wife at the time, we were certified to do CPR. So we was right there, like ground zero. We was like right there in the thick of it all. And it was a horrific, and I do mean horrific scene, as if it was stage props for a movie. Or something like that. We got all clearance because it was such bizarre. It was such a bizarre scene. The officials that was there trying to keep order. There's like, if you see any movement, anything that can be remotely close to someone that's fainted or look like they're about to lose their life, just do what you're trained to do.
Yeah.
It was an experience that I will never, ever forget.
Yeah. Yeah. Today.
Right.
When the people of the state of Oklahoma wanted to have every school with a storm shelter, and the governor did not support that. When you do not put our children first, I don't think there's hope for you. We're going to go to break on this, but let me say this. In 1939, I received this from one of our listeners. There was a Supreme Court case about sawed-off shotguns. And I think this is relevant today, what Chief Justice Berger said publicly, criticizing the NRA as perpetuating one of the greatest pieces of fraud. I repeat, this is what he said, the word fraud, on the American public by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime.
Great.
Fraud.
Right.
Folks, hang in there. We got Kareem and the crew when we get back. Folks, we'll be right back.
This is Quraish Ali, Lansana, poet, author, educator, and Oklahoma. And when I listen to podcasts, I'm on that one mic, one voice joint.
This is DT of the One Mic, One Voice podcast. Just want to let you guys know you can go over to iTunes and search us at One Mic, One Voice, and be sure to rate and review our episodes. Let us know about any feedback that you have and what you enjoy about the episodes. Also, you can go over to Stitcher where you can get the latest and freshest episodes of our podcast streamed directly to your smartphone or iPad. No downloading or syncing. How cool. Real smooth. Also, we just like to take the time to thank you for your time and for your energy and for spending time with us as we discuss the historical record of our time.
Hi, everyone. This is Roxy Davis.
And this is Deborah Burris. And we are
the Roxy by Design Show. Our show is designed to bring healing as we share our stories while God redesign our lives.
So take a ride with us.
So you can find us at
Podbean, iTunes,
Facebook and Twitter,
and blackenstudios.com.
So thank you, everyone, for listening to the Roxy by Design Show. You have a blessed day.
We love you.
All right. We're back in the studio. It's about to get real interesting right now. We got a whole crew up in here. I'm a little intimidated, actually. I see all this intelligent, all this mind, all these educators. I'm a little afraid over here. Where DT at when I need him? Oh, man. We know it's been a serious show because we are living in a serious time. We're living in our own civil rights, not just for black folks, but for all folks. And we have Brother Karim. He is here with us, but he's got some guests. We getting things kind of situated in here. But Brother Karim, why don't you introduce all our guests, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I have Mr. Reagan Kalaki with me. He's the educator that was known. He was known worldwide for he did a class in front of the state capitol doing the teacher's walkout. But he'd be able to elaborate and get things going. I have Miss Jerry Lynn with me. I have Mr. Larry Coleman with me. And I have Brother Elijah Mothershed with me. I have an all-star cast.
Yeah, you do have an all-star cast. I'm just going to say that. Good faces in here. And they've had an opportunity to listen to the first half of the show. Just quickly, let's just have some observations.
Checked. Okay, good. Excellent. So, my name is Reagan Kalaki. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was great. The first half of the show was absolutely phenomenal. I just loved everything about it. So, Karim and I, Karim reached out to me just through Facebook, and now we've become kind of buddies. But we're going to promote this event that's happening on June 2nd, and it's Teacher Appreciation Foundation's event to actually award teachers and just draw attention to education in Oklahoma. And it's going to be the Summer Break Fun Day, and it's happening June 2nd again, 2018. Coming up. So I'm humbled and really excited to be a part of it because we get to talk about these issues that you guys started talking about at the end of the first part of your podcast. So if we're going to address really serious issues such as student safety, we have to start with student funding. Mm-hmm. And with the state of education in Oklahoma right now, it's not even close to where it was in 2008. And that's another reason why we had to have a walkout to begin with. Because while, yes, we did, in fact, get a teacher pay raise and a support staff pay raise, $6,000 for teachers and $1,250 for support staff, that's a step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that that's one step, but that step isn't big enough. Mm-hmm. And on top of it, that's why we had class at the Capitol, because my students decided that they wanted to show the Oklahoma legislature what we do on a daily basis in the classroom and change the narrative of, yes, we did get, in fact, teacher pay raises, but this is not about teachers. This is about students and their day-to-day experience in Oklahoma and in the classroom. So if we want to talk about school shootings, if we want to talk about, like, saving our children and providing them a safe zone, like you said before in the first part of the podcast, you never had to worry about going to school and a school shooting happening when we were growing up. Like, it just wasn't in our existence. And so because it wasn't in our existence, we have to actually turn and face that reality. Mm-hmm. Because you're right, it's just going to be waiting to the next one. Mm-hmm. So in order to do, it's a lot of different cogs in this machine, but at the same time, it's like that's why we actually had the classroom at the Capitol, because the focus had to be on the students, not the teachers. And even now, those budget revenue measures are in jeopardy because of Tom Coburn and Taxpayers United. So the bill 1010XX and all the new revenue measures could in fact go to a state question. Mm-hmm. And if that state question is put up to the people, the citizens of Oklahoma, they will be lobbied to vote against new taxes. Mm-hmm. And they'll try to divorce the teacher pay raise to the new revenue measures. But that's not the case because they're actually married together. Mm-hmm. And so if that in fact goes up for a vote and the public votes against new taxes, then we're going to see, again, a ripple effect. We're going to see another walkout is what you're going to probably see. And if you don't see another walkout, you're going to see a walkout of teachers from the classroom in Oklahoma to a classroom in Texas, where that school shooting ironically just happened.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of issues that kind of go into this, but that's one of the reasons why we did what we did. I'm so thankful for Teacher Appreciation Foundation and Karim for recognizing that and actually putting on an event that that really does honor what we do and honors our children, honors our support staff, and it's going to be a really fun time on June 2nd, and I can't wait to be there.
And where's it going to be at again?
Oh,
it's going to be at Wiley Post Park, downtown Oklahoma City, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's a free event. Okay, it's going to be fun. It's going to be prizes. It's going to be games, good music. I have a celebrity barber with us, Larry Coleman. Now he's known to cut the hairs of Kevin Durant, of Carmelo Anthony, I believe Russell Westbrook. List goes on and on and on.
Okay, now I'm really jealous. This is ridiculous.
This you know, he's a superhero in my eyes.
Yeah,
he's going to be giving free haircuts.
Okay, wonderful
to the kids. So, brother Larry.
Yes, sir. How you doing? Sir?
Doing good.
It's a pleasure to be here, and like to say, I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored to be a part of this. My salon is Legitimate Look Barber and Salon, and I'm also the founder of the Almond Foundation. It's a foundation that we support people with lupus and other debilitating diseases. And with the Legitimate Look, it's actually what we do. And speaking on with the situation with the kids and everything, this nation definitely needs a legitimate look because it's definitely looking bad. We do our part as far as helping with the students is, being in a situation where I can give back. It's not always about money, and I tell people that you're rich beyond measures with your heart and your desire to give, and you would never go broke if you do that. So what we do is we go out, we get free haircuts, school supplies, hygiene supplies, things of that nature. We visit matter of fact, we're going to another school tomorrow. When we sit down and we cut the kids' hair, we become a friend. We get to learn about them, and that's an opportunity to be a mentor. And we provide education with the kids in that way as well. Being the school shootings and the police brutality and things of that nature. My shop and myself, we copied all the police protocol and how to respond and how to comply. We printed out all the rules and passed them out to the kids and explained to them, not only just giving them the information and talking to them about how to conduct yourself, but how to actually speak properly and gestures and things of that nature. And to be honest, watching that, I'm in the mind of going out and teaching kids how to defend themselves, with mixed martial arts and things of that nature, because it's sad it's getting to that point, but
And this is the Almond Eyes Foundation.
Almond Eyes Foundation. This is with Legitimate Look.
Okay,
this is just
that's just you. That's just your barbershop.
This is just me as a barbershop.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of sad because I was at Northeast High School. We cut about maybe 50 kids' hair that day, and had a great conversation with the young men and the young women. And not even 20 minutes into giving haircuts, there was an intruder alert.
Oh, wow.
And we had to go into the classroom, and this really bothered me because we were sitting in the classroom, and, me being, like I said, being from a small town where I've been introduced to a ton of violence, been in a lot of violent situations, and being a martial artist myself, I always watch my surroundings and look at ways to intercept and to get out of any type of trouble. And I'm looking around, and they put us in this classroom, and I'm like, wow, there's no way to get out of this window. Mm-hmm. There's no way to get out of this classroom. We're trapped. You just put me in a trap. And I got nervous, and I just stood up. I was like, no, let's get out of here.
Right.
And they was like, no, you got to stay in here. I'm not staying in here. I understand y'all got a drill, but this drill is making me really upset.
Yeah. So it was an intruder drill?
It was an intruder. Yeah. They
right.
didn't know if anyone was in there or not. But had they been, you just set. I just hate that they set the kids up. If I wanted to come in and just wipe you out, I mean, you're sitting target. There's no way in or out. And I've been in clubs like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we actually went outside, and they had to wait outside like we used to do. You know, when there's a bomb threat, they walk us across the street so we can watch the school blow up in front of us, basically. Right. There's just so much stuff, and that just made me just think about the school shootings. I'm like, man, that's kind of sad.
And I tell my kids every single day, I'm like, not every single day, but I tell my students, this high school is only as safe as you want it to be.
Yes.
Truly. Like, it is their responsibility to actually keep their eyes open and be aware of, like, the emotions and the relationships between each other as best they can.
Yes.
And that's, every single high school is vulnerable,
And, Reagan, and I think that's wonderful that you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me think, like, the added responsibility to the student beyond learning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just coming in with my books, like, I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to, but I got to be watching my neighbor here.
Yes.
Right?
Well, right.
I got to be listening to what's going on, because now I'm actually part of the solution to prevent violence in my school. Right? And so it's an added on responsibility for young people that we never had. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think we truly understand just how much more they have to deal with than what we had to deal with.
Right. Because
what about the old school things? Like, I remember showing out in school. I was talking all kind of noise to my 6th grade teacher, and then all of a sudden, I just hear these footsteps coming down the hall. He had already called my mom.
Yeah, it was Mama.
He already knew I was going to show out.
Yeah.
And the door was not even 3 feet from me. I could have took off running, but I was too weak to run. I knew what was about to happen. But I'm thinking about this, and I hear so many people complain about, the parents, the welfare, and this and that, and all the derogative things they're saying. But why not make that part of school curriculum? If you're a parent and you don't have a job, or if you're on government assistance, you need to spend some time at the school. Because the problem is you have young mothers, young parents coming up who really didn't even finish school, or they still need some education themselves. Because I know I wouldn't have shown out all that time if my mom was spending a little time sitting in that classroom. And they'll guard their door a little better than some of these security officers. It's sad, but it's true. Maybe spend some time in that school. And one of the biggest things that I know that stops bullying is a good old fashioned butt kicking.
Absolutely.
And I think you speak to what you were talking about earlier, is this idea of, if you fund schools properly, then these other social services that you talk about, you can start focusing attention on that.
Yes.
But when you're just trying to survive, right, you don't have the energy to expend trying to reach out. I mean, teachers are taxed from the time they walk in to the time they leave. They don't have time to be trying to incorporate parents into this or into that, because they're trying to teach, discipline, they're counselors, they're social workers, they're all of that. So without the proper funding, you can't line up those things. And when we were growing up, all those things were there because teachers were just teaching.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you want to, I don't even want to get in. This is hard for me, because I don't even want to get into the conversation of arming teachers. Because, and this is kind of me admitting to being kind of foolish and emotionally charged when it comes to the issue, because it's so absolutely absurd when it comes to arming your actual staff. Okay? Like, it's hard for me to actually see the other side of that argument. and I have to like coach myself into like saying, okay, somehow the Lieutenant Governor of Texas is going to go ahead and take the position that we continue to arm our teachers and continue to, increase security measures after this shooting. And for me, I agree with half of that statement. We can go ahead and do that, but at the same time, like you said earlier, what are we going to turn our schools into? Prisons?
Yeah.
Are we going to have security measures so incredibly jacked up where it's metal detectors and only a few entrances and exits, and that's what it's going to look like? And if that's the case, let's say that is the case. Well, how are we going to pay for it?
Yeah.
If we want to go ahead and go that route, which I don't really agree with, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, the president said he came up with so many millions of dollars to arm teachers. So I think if it puts money in the gun industry as well as the companies that make ammunition, I think they'll find the money to do that. We have a couple other guests here.
Yes, we do. And again, going back to the summer break fun day.
Yes,
it is something that's going to be vivacious. It's going to be entertaining. It's a free event. Everybody come out. Yes. Everybody come out June 2nd at 12 p.m. On a side note, I had the opportunity to play a lead role in a play. This play focuses on emotions, education, everyday life. It's pretty much encompassing everything that we just talked about right here today. And I have the director of the play, Miss Jerry Lynn. I have Elijah Mothershed. He's one of the lead roles in the play. I play a lead role. The cool thing about it is I'm playing a barber. Don't know the first thing about it.
Did you give him some training?
I'm gonna have to coach him up. He needs some professional development
give him some clippers. Don't let them be plugged in.
Yeah, that's what I do.
But Miss Jerry, please, the floor is yours. Please tell the listeners about your play that you got coming up.
Well, thank you so much. I would like to say first, before I even get started, that I was born and raised here in Oklahoma City, so I am an Oklahoman. However, I've been away for the past 10, 15 years, and Atlanta, Dallas, and I just recently came from Memphis. But we were glued to the television. We were supporting you guys, and it was really interesting to hear, even in Atlanta, even in Memphis, no matter where you went, we heard everyone supporting the teachers, the walkout. So I want you to know, it's just, people are behind you guys, and everybody was rooting for you guys also. So I was really proud to say I'm from Oklahoma. So on a lighter note, I have a stage play. I'm the playwright, director, and producer of The Black Woman's Attitude and the Men Who Want to Love Us. Now, this play is based on my book that I wrote, The Black Woman's Attitude. And how I came about this book is, as a speaker, I would go out and I would hear, speak to women and men, and I kind of hear some of the things that women would say, like, ain't no good men out here, and, what first, what they, and the other. Some women that's married and going through the issues with their husbands. I listen to men also. Some of the men is saying things of, it's kind of hard. I don't know what she wants. I don't know what she want me to do. So I decided to write a book about this. And I wrote it from a black woman's standpoint. So somebody asked me, they said, why did you call it The Black Woman's Attitude? Because basically all women go through things. And I said, yes, but I'm telling it from a black woman's perspective of it. And although we have a Caucasian lady in it also, but I'm telling it from a black woman's standpoint. So after that, I decided, it's that old saying how sometimes people don't want to read. So I decided, okay, now I'm going to put it in a play form. I'm going to actually and this is based on real live stories. No matter how funny, and it is funny, no matter how serious, and no matter how sad, you might go through all those different, it's based on true stories. This is not fiction. This is really based on a true story. Now, for instance, Elijah was in the first play. I brought it to Oklahoma last year. Some of you might remember last year, March the 4th. And we brought it back, and it was a sold-out show. I'm so excited. So I decided, okay, again, Oklahoma's my home. We're going to bring it back. Elijah, tell them what you thought about the play.
I am Elijah. I play the character John in Jerry's wonderful stage play. And I was honored to be in this stage play, and in the character that I play is a man who is well-traveled, very educated, and he wants to be with a black woman. He doesn't want to date outside of his race. He loves and respects the black woman no matter what he's seen when he grew up. So I automatically fell in love with the character. And this play is very well written. And as she said, it was sold out, and it'll be sold out again. So please come check out the cast. Come check out the play. It's June 15th. It's happening at Douglas. And you can come to the Hub. You can pick up tickets there in advance. They're only $25. They're $35 at the door. And if you want to have some enjoyment, have some a great time, bring a friend. Bring a family member.
And on that note, we do have 2 sets of tickets. 2 for you, Brother Mike, 2 for you, Brother Richard. And like I said, this is based off all emotions. It encompasses the everyday life of what we talked about over the past hour on this network. And we thank you guys. Of course, I've been a part of this movement since you was in your garage. Now your room. There was a little room at your house. so you know, here you go. And once again, we thank you. We thank you.
We appreciate it, brother.
Yes,
you know,
Miss Jerry, she was wanting to say something.
Yes.
Okay, and I just wanted to say, and basically the play is going to take place, it's like a beauty shop, barbershop setting. And you know how come I did it that way? Because that's where all the gossip is. You know, anything you want to know about, you either go to a beauty shop or a barber shop.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're letting the women, and bring your mates, bring your significant others, because this is for men and women. It's the black woman's attitude and the men who want to love us. And what I did is just try to show a lot of times, and again, I got this from speaking, but so on one side, you're going to hear the women saying, for instance, Niecy spends a lot of money. But what you don't know, and when you read the book, it's going to coincide with the book. Niecy, and this is based on a true story, had some issues way in her past that she never told her husband about. So then we get married, and we got this baggage that we haven't shared with our husbands or our mate, and yet it's affecting her everyday life in her marriage. If I could be real, it's sometimes that her husband wanted to be intimate with her, or a certain touch, a certain feel, and she pushed him away. Well, in his mind, as a man, he's thinking, wow, she's rejecting me. When it had nothing to do with him at all. It was something that she's still going through, that she hasn't healed from, that she's still dealing with. And a lot of women, we're doing that. We're going through things. So that's what this play is going to kind of take you there. Also, you're going to hear on the man's side the fact that even as a man, he's saying, man, she's thinking, oh, no big deal. My husband don't mind. I'm spending and all that. But then you hear him on the other side saying, man, she's spending out more than I bring in the household. So, I want, so we can see both sides of it, how the man is feeling about some of the things that we do as women, but then also how the women, so it's like we got to get ourselves together. And somebody asked me, they say, well, is this like man bashing or women bashing? I said, no, it's not. But the thing of it is that we talk about men, let's just be real, men this, men that, but nobody is willing to step up and say, women, we need to get ourselves together too. Now, everything ain't the man's fault. Some of this, we got to, get ourselves together on some issues. So I'm telling you, you will have a great time. It's going to deal with reality. It's going to make you take a look at your own relationship when you walk away. I guarantee you.
Well, it's okay if it's man bashing. I mean, that's fair game right there. Just telling you, that's just fair game.
Yeah, with the Me Too movement, which is probably more about equality than man bashing. But the play sounds it sounds very interesting. I applaud you for your creativity and for bringing this to Oklahoma, and for being a truth teller. Yes, right, as Alfred Murray has said. it is the writer's task to reveal the unhidden and the unspoken. And so that's exactly what you have done.
Absolutely.
And so I'm excited for you, and we will continue to get the word out. I mean, Kareem knows how to put it on our website. We have close to 19,000 listeners worldwide. And so we have some folks locally that will also, I'm sure, take part in that.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a great show. One last comment, brother. Can you read that? Can somebody read that up there? Elijah put something else up there.
She said, do you folks think the parents of these kids who kill should be held responsible if they got their weapons from their parents, from the parents?
Yeah. When it comes to that sort of scenario, I don't know, culpability is something that could play its role. And the only reason I say that is because as a teacher, we are actually, by law, we have to report any child abuse that we see, like physical, emotional, by law. And if we don't, then we're held, legally responsible, right? And I love to take that statute and talk to my kids about it, and where would that actually play its own role, right? So how are we going to go ahead and use that sort of idea in a variety of different contexts? But something like that, I think something like that could work. But again, it would have to be another regulation, and that's where we're starting, So.
I think parents should be held accountable. For the weapons that they buy, that they keep in their house. It's their responsibility. And if you don't want that accountability, don't buy the weapon. A lot comes along with owning something that can take life, in my opinion. So I exactly agree with you. It's been a fantastic show. And, we love having you on One Mic, One Voice. Continue to connect with us. And as always, history will speak of us. Somewhere in the distant future, a scribe will reach down deep into the archives of our time, and what will she find? Will she discover that we overcame our differences? Will she find that out of many we became one? Or will she find that we solved nothing and remain a divided people? Yes, history will speak of us.
We can make a difference if we try. We can beat the change that's in our lives. All we gotta do is work together. We gotta raise our children better. We gotta stop the hate, and spread the love.
One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice. One mic, one voice. You can change the world, it's your choice.
Today's broadcast is being brought to you by Blackened Studios. To learn more about Blackened Studios, please visit them at blackenedstudios.com or visit them on their Facebook page, Blackened Studios. Today's broadcast is also being brought to you by Perry Publishing and Broadcasting. To learn more about Perry Publishing and Broadcasting, please visit their website at perrypublishingandbroadcasting.net. The opinions of the One Mic, One Voice show do not reflect the views of Blackened Studios or Perry Publishing and Broadcasting. Thank you for downloading the One Mic, One Voice show.